used by more than 230 million users in 190 countries to create, to collaborate on everything from presentations to videos to whiteboards and more. Our platform handles about 1.2 million requests per second, and we have over 220 petabytes of media under management, growing by an astonishing 150 terabytes every day. Today, we've had over 35 billion designs created on our platform, and we have about 450 new designs created every second. But I'm going to take you all the way back to the very beginning of this journey when most of these numbers were pretty much zero. I joined Canva back in 2014 when there were just a handful of us. And you can see the back-end engineering team around this time. We're in a single room in Devonshire Street in Surrey Hills, and we're absolutely overwhelmed with the enormity of implementing the vision that was in the heads of our founders, Mel, Cliff, and Cam. On top of our minds was this architectural quandary. How do we build something quickly, get it into market, but build it in a way that allows us to rapidly evolve our architecture to scale? Now, we knew we would eventually need some kind of microservices architecture that would ultimately allow us to scale components independently, and it would allow us to scale the number of engineers working productively on our systems. And so we planned for this future of microservices, and we built and deployed a monolith. And looking at the cloud providers at the time, AWS was the natural choice. And we were able to get up and running really quickly using what was then a really new program called AWS Activate. Now, baked into the design of our monolith was a pathway to scale. It was completely stateless, which meant we could scale it horizontally using auto-scaling and elastic load balancing. And it was carefully modeled around key entities we'd identified, and we implemented this model with some simple rules to make it really decomposable in the future. Each entity was encapsulated by a service interface, and our service interfaces strive for consistency around a really simple set of CRUD verbs. These rules allowed us to tease apart the monolith relatively easily when the need for scale came. Our service interfaces became RPC stubs, and one execution unit evolved to one per service. Now, our initial architecture was backed by a single RDS MySQL database. But in designing our schema, we similarly tried to anticipate scale. So we maintained strict isolation of entity relations. If you needed to perform some big business orchestration, that had to happen above the service layer. It was very tempting to join at the persistence layer, but that was strictly forbidden. And that meant that our one MySQL instance was easily decomposed into multiple MySQL instances as the need for scale came. And we could scale further. We can scale out through read replicas and then up through instance sizing. And finally, as our exponential growth really exploded, many of our services were migrated over to DynamoDB, which continues to give us global scale. Now, I'd love to tell you that this process of evolving our persistence was always smooth. It was definitely not. The thing about exponential growth is it can be really, really hard for humans, even engineers, to understand. And we felt this acutely in our media service. The exploding popularity of Canva meant that the media service MySQL got really, really big on us. And we knew we had to get to DynamoDB, but to buy a zero downtime transition, we raced to put an abstraction layer over our persistence, and we milked every last drop of functionality out of MySQL, which by that stage was groaning under the weight of tables hundreds of millions of rows in size and growing by tens of millions of rows per day, and hitting new and exciting RDS limits on a regular basis. And many of you might be familiar that, we go back one slide, that the joy of building an application in Sydney, Australia is to hit those limits at the US traffic peak, which is 1 a.m. Sydney time. So you'd often discover these limits in the haze of an on-call alert. I'm going to save the story for how we actually got there for the pub, but we did get there, and today DynamoDB manages about 122 billion items for our media service, and it's growing by 182 million items a day, and we get really impressive performance and reliability. Now, central to our technology culture at Canva is the value that we always strive for pragmatic excellence. We make pragmatic choices early on, like starting with a monolith, but always with that pathway to scalability in mind. We started with MySQL, but similarly had a pathway to scale. And we've taken that same approach with AI. While the hype around AI can lead to bolt-on and gimmicky features, our focus is resolutely on delivering meaningful impact. We're always asking, how can AI support our mission? How does it power our business? And how does it create real value for our users? And we've got this three-pronged approach to AI, which has allowed us to really rapidly evolve in the face of constant AI improvement. The first prong is best-in-class third-party model integration. And we use AWS SageMaker and Bedrock, along with our own platform abstraction, to quickly and easily leverage best-of-breed models from third parties. And we can really rapidly integrate those into cohesive product experiences that deliver real value for our users. So a great example of this is Magic Media. We launched this in 2023, and by using SageMaker real-time inference, we safely rolled this out to 100 million users in under 3 weeks. More recently, we just launched Canva Code, which is leveraging Bedrock and using Claude Sonnet. Now, Canva Code lets users create little interactive digital experiences with AI generating the code for them. This feature took us about 3 months from ideation to production at scale, 200 million users. The second dimension of our AI strategy is our rich ecosystem API. The ecosystem API and the Apps SDK power the Apps Marketplace, which now has over 550 third-party applications, a third of which are powered by AI. On the screen is one of my favorites, the Crikey 3D AI animation app. During its first month on the Canva platform, Crikey saw a 10% conversion rate among Canva users who tried it. The third prong of our AI strategy is our in-house AI R&D. We invest heavily in our own development of in-house AI technologies that leverage the vast amount of opt-in data that we have. To power this investment, we have created a world-class AI research capability centered right here in Sydney. This has really uniquely positioned us to leverage the billions of data points we have around design construction, design intent, propensity modeling, to advance our own AI abilities. And we've recently partnered with AWS to drive the next wave of R&D and model training across Canva and Leonardo with a cluster of 1,000 H200 GPUs. Canva was one of the first to join AWS Startup Activate, and a decade later, I hope that this little snippet of our journey shows what's possible, and it inspires someone in this room to be the next generation of founder that dreams big and builds something extraordinary right here in Australia. Thank you.